You've been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector times. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Yet again, it's time to get trucky in Kentucky, and it's with higher stakes than ever. With only 2 races to go in the season and 1 race to go before the championship, a win at this wild card track is the prize everyone's been looking for. And now RaceSpotTV welcomes you to round 8 of the PRL Truck Fixed series in 2024 Season 4. My name is Joey Tebben. Joining me in the booth, as always, is Derek Watson, and behind the scenes on sound and pictures is Hugo Luis. We're almost done, Derek. 2 more to go, 1 race to go after this, and it'll be crowning a champion. So you got to get in tonight if you want to have any shot.
And kind of fitting here, we are at the state that uses the Wildcats as their mascot, and it's a wild card of a track here at Kentucky. It's a track we don't visit too often anymore, Joey. It's kind of seen its way off the real-life NASCAR schedule, so it doesn't really fit inside the iRacing rotation that often. So I think there'll be a lot of question marks for a lot of drivers. And of course, in 1 week's time, we wrap this up at Auto Club Speed, a track that doesn't exist anymore. We're going to go back and race the big format of it. Maybe one of the last times we'll see that in the regular rotation. Well, let's start looking at the points and get through this cavalcade of point systems and make our way there. Starting with the pro standings, look at that. Richard Regan slowly opening a gap on Bradley Holly by about 22 points. Back is Mark Kalin, one of the Kentucky natives here. Jeff Evans is in P4. Ted Lowendick, Jeff Ward, James Morgan, Abner Acosta, Daniel Knight, and Jacob Dunn round out the top 10 on the pro standings.
Definitely looking like a 2-horse race between Regan and Holly. Maybe a 1-horse race in the AM standings. Andrew Sharp, with all of his success this season, finished second on track last week, if I'm not mistaken, finishing only behind Regan. That is, by my mental math in my head, a 42-point gap over Nicholas Schwartz. That's not insurmountable. If Sharp has a bad day, that could totally open up, and you cannot drop the final race of the season, which factors in as well. But as long as he has a couple of good days, Andrew Sharp might be looking at his first AM championship in the PRL Truck Fixed series in just 2 weeks. In the team standings as well, it's only getting a little bit closer. It's been sort of inching closer to a championship battle week by week. But with 2 races to go, there's 53 points separating the Whataback squads, Overdrive and TNT, a couple more points separating Bluegrass from them too. The team's championship is still alive, and if Whataback Overdrive has another bad week, they've had a couple these past couple times, it'll still be open, but it's only looking like it's going to be at the same points gap that it's been all season. We'll see what happens tonight if that points gap starts to come down. Qualifying currently underway. 3 minutes left on the clock, which gives us plenty of time to talk about the playoff standings, Derek. And as you notice, below the cut line, lots of drivers with a big double-digit number below the cut line. That might mean they have to win tonight.
Yeah, basically, I believe where we are on both sides is basically a win and in. And I say it basically because there's some long shots that requires calamity and damage. So on the left side for the pros, the former Grand National drivers, Ted Lowendick in P4, 15 points to the good on Abner Acosta, 29 on James Morgan, 33 on Jeff Evans. If Ted were to have a bad night, and a bad night, realistically, I think, Joey, means wrecking out and not finishing. Probably Abner's the only one who could point his way in. For Morgan and Evans, it is win and in, or you're not going to make it. On the right side, Patrick Calgill and Zach Panzarella are in. It does not say that on the graphic, but they cannot lose 70 points. It's just the point system doesn't allow for that. Brett Adams, 23 points to good on Austin Hunter and Mike Toomer, 34 on Nick Hunter, 42 on Marty Calvert. If Brett Adams has a bad night early, maybe Austin Hunter or Mike Toomer could point in, but realistically, Hunter, Toomer, Nick Hunter, and Calvert are win and in to get to the Final Four next week at Auto Club.
See how that all shakes out. One final race in the round of 8. It's looking a little gray, but we can thank Advanced Sim Racing to bring the sunshine out. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRO members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. And indeed, qualifying almost coming to an end, but still about 30 seconds left on the clock. And a name, shockingly, we haven't seen at the top of the timesheets all season. Abner Acosta sits on pole for the moment. Not for long, though, as Richard Regan Jr. dunks on him by 0.005 of a second.
And that would have been big for Abner because he needs those points to get in. But quickly, let's run through a list. Joey, here's the drivers not able to qualify. James Morgan, Jeff Evans, Tom Macy, Dalton Geyer, Alex Hillman, Nicholas Schwartz, Patrick Cowgill, Dustin Bumgarner, Philip Bauer, Marty Calvert, Dylan Schmidt, Jose Medina, Brett Adams, Nathan Deering, and Tyler Graff, all not able to qualify. So I think the grid will be a little quicker than normal to read as far as those who qualified.
Yeah, essentially half the field was allowed to qualify. 15 trucks were allowed to qualify, 10 did not qualify. So there's some drivers who may be a little bit higher in the order than expected. Some drivers may be starting deeper in the order than expected. But two drivers we're very used to seeing up front, Richard Regan Jr. and Abner Acosta, will start alongside each other. Regan is on his 7th pole in 8 races. He's only been out qualified once this season. Zachary Burnt, another good run from him. He'll start 3rd alongside Kevin McGarvey. Zach Panzarella will start from P5 alongside Mark Kalin, who's locked into the championship 4 with his win from 2 weeks ago. Ted Lowendick in the number 13 starts alongside Mike Toomer Jr. Mike Richter and Austin Hunter round out the top 10. Good starting spots from them. Andrew Sharp, a little bit lower in the order than we'd expect from him, but he's a driver who knows how to drive forward. Colton Lane rounds out the top dozen in the 60.
Moving back here in the rows for row number 7, Nicholas Hunter and Doyle Lawrence, 13th and 14th. Bradley Holly and James Morgan, P15, P16. Morgan is the first car not able to qualify. Then Jeff Evans and Dalton Geyer, 17 and 18. Jacob Dunn and Brett Adams back in row 10, 19 and 20. Tom Macy and Dustin Bumgarner, is 21 and 22. And Patrick Cowgill and Nicholas Schwartz round out your top 24. And then just one more name, Joey, on the grid. It is Alex Hillman in P25.
Good to see a couple of those trucks returning. Brett Adams is back after being suspended last week. Tyler Graff is not back after being suspended last week, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll see him in the future. Hopefully we'll see Jose the Funky Cole Medina back in the future as well. It is good to see Brett Adams back on the grid. Only 25 trucks this week, though, similar to the amount we had at Phoenix last week. Is that going to mean a similar amount of trouble we saw with 25 trucks last week? Or does that mean we might be able to get a little bit spaced out this time?
Oh gosh, it's hard to say because this track really with the trucks, Joey, is sort of a bit of a mini draft fest. These trucks will all kind of be under a blanket for at least the first 5 to 10 laps, and then it'll start to kind of space itself out. So, I mean, this track does not promote some of the dog leg and that kind of diving into the corners. But I think we'll be cleaner. I really do. I think this will be a much cleaner race. I think it'll be a lot less of the cautions and the things going on. So I'm happy to say that. By the way, breaking news, Joey, just announced by the PRL admins. Next season, no more Pro-Am split for the trucks. We will be all one roster.
There we go. We were thinking about it all season long. Things were developing. Good to hear it finally confirmed. The truckers have all been on the same track this season. They've all been fighting for the same real estate, but they have been fighting for pro wins and am wins. Next season, it'll just be like the old days. 40-something, 30-something trucks on track, fighting for the same race, fighting for the same positions. It'll be good stuff. Also, one driver we notably did not mention and notably don't see on the grid, Jeff Ward, not here this week. He was due to serve a qualifying penalty. He's just not here at all. So unfortunately, after being eliminated from the playoffs, after being eliminated from championship contention most likely, Jeff Ward didn't have much to fight for this week. But we hope we'll see him back next week at Auto Club, and we're looking forward to seeing these 25 trucks going at it at Kentucky. It's a track that doesn't see much action in the real world, but through the power of virtual reality and physics, we can make it work. Richard Regan Jr. starts from pole for the 7th time this season, and we're green at Kentucky. It's a good start by Abner Acosta as well to his outside, keeps a nose to the rear bumper of Richard Regan Jr. Look at nearly 3 wide behind them. Kevin McGarvey on the top, Mark Kalin in the middle, Zach Panzarella in the 247 making it 3 wide early.
My goodness, that really was 3 wide. That's about as close as 3 wide as you can get there at any track, much less Kentucky. They were all there within about a lane and a half, but they've worked it out here. Look at that 62 quickly getting to the bottom here. That's Mark Kalin, hometown boy. The truck says Bluegrass. He's part of Bluegrass Motorsports, and here he is at a home track. There's a lot of drivers tonight, Joey, that either live in Kentucky or close to it, and boy, there was some smoke up against that wall.
That was Zachary Burnt getting into the wall on lap 1, misjudging the entrance there, going to scupper his momentum a little bit. It was another great qualifying run for Burnt. He's had excellent qualifying speed this season. The race pace and the long run speed has been his downfall, unfortunately. So he's hoping for some short runs tonight, or he's hoping that he can find some kind of miracle with some long run tire pace.
Yeah, but either one of those would be great. And hey, that's a cool stat for Burnt. A lot of times I think drivers have the opposite problem. You know, and I'm going to call out Bradley Holly for a second, qualified P15 tonight. Brad has an incredible race pace, pardon me, Joey, but sometimes doesn't always qualify it well. He gets a little frustrated in qualifying and misses it, but Burnt has a complete opposite thing going on, and good for him. He's now side by side with Mark Kalin, and they almost made contact.
And amidst all that fighting for second, Abner Acosta takes the lead past Richard Regan Jr. around the outside. We're used to the tire wizard being the guy who holds back a little bit, saves a little bit, and stays in second and waits to make the move. Abner's going the opposite way this week. He wants track position, he wants the lead early, and he's taking it.
Didn't I say win and in? Apparently someone told Abner Acosta he's winning in, because he is taking it serious. Right now, he would be in that P4 spot, and Ted Lowendick would be out of that P4 spot on the pro side. Now we'll go back in the field. There's Tabitha Ross's Jacob Dunn and James Morgan. Morgan's fighting for the spot as well, and he is trying to get through the field. He's right in front of Andrew Sharp, who is locked in to the Final Four.
Yeah, Andrew Sharp doesn't need to do too well this week. He's essentially got the AM championship for the season on lock. He is locked into the championship 4, but he's still a new driver to these trucks. He still wants to do as well as possible, and he's definitely not going to be happy riding in 17th right now. Look for Sharp to try and turn things around as he falls back below Brett Adams. It's not the start he wanted.
No, Brett right there is on that cut line of P4 for the AM side. We think he's good as long as he finishes the race. I would say, what, Joey, P15 or better would almost be a definite. Even P20, I think, would be a lock for Brett Adams, but he wants to get out here and race tonight. I just wonder, Joey, when it comes to drivers like Richard Regan, maybe Brett Adams, Bradley Holly, who are locked in, it's not that these guys don't practice, and I'm not hinting that, but I wonder if some people have already put more practice in the Auto Club than they have in the Kentucky.
Let's turn into a little bit of a pack race up front. Looks a little bit like what Auto Club might look like next week. Richard Regan Jr. has caught Acosta again, and he's going to retake the lead through turns 1 and 2. Zach Panzarella's going around the outside. The AM driver in the number 247 is looking to make the move on Acosta as well for second, and maybe the move on Regan for the lead.
And this is great for Panzarella. Panzarella, of course, won the title in the truck a couple seasons ago, had an incredible run during that season and qualified for the playoffs. And I think he would be the first to admit has struggled since then, has had some good finishes, but not where he wants to be. But here he is up to the front. He's now going to lead and take Abner Acosta out of the Final Four.
Boom. It's a little bit like a chess match at the front of this field. Every driver both wants to lead and doesn't want to lead at different moments, and Zach Panzarella, the AM driver, takes the lead of the race overall, and he started to run away from Regan a little bit. A 0.6 of a second gap. That's pretty massive. He's going to get caught, but he's trying to show up the field. He's trying to show when we go next season, when there's no pros and AMs anymore, I can still fight with the best of them.
I just am concerned for Panzarella. I'm concerned he's being too aggressive, Joey. I'm concerned he's maybe burning up too much equipment right now. That maybe, if this race stays green, knock on wood, that 10, 15 laps from now, it just sort of, washes itself back out, so to speak. So I'm curious to see what becomes of that. And this track is tricky right now, Joey. And this track with this pack racing, as they come into turn 1, this is almost a flat out corner for these drivers. Maybe a slight lift, but not much of one, if at all. You'll be flat out here through 1 and 2. You'll want to track out to the wall. Now, 3 and 4 is a tricky corner, Joey. This one looks deceiving. You have to break in this corner or you're in trouble.
And here comes Mark Kalin, the latest driver to maybe think that Zach Panzarella's up to something. maybe it is the way to go to not hold back as much and to try and run away from the field. Kalen's not able to make the move in the same way Panzarella was, but he's got a hungry pack of trucks coming behind him. Kalen's trying to go around the outside. McGarvey's trying to go around the outside of Acosta. Mike Toomer Jr. in that black and green 42 truck is also trying to make something work up high.
Yeah, and I think for Toomer, he's up here and good for him. He's benefited from that massive list of non-qualifiers. He's able to get up here early and run well. Remember, Toomer's also on that list of win and in as he's now passing 3 wide up top, 4 wide almost, if not completely 4 wide, clears it, and it's good.
That was Ted Lowendick trying to make the bottom work, sent it into turn 1. Got a little bit tight, didn't quite work out for him. He's going to be side by side with Zachary Burnt now in the 28, who's only done falling back since the start of this race. It's exactly what we mentioned. He's got great qualifying pace, but once you get about 7 or 8 minutes in, ripping the top rips those tires to shreds, and drivers like Ted Lowendick and Bradley Holly are ready to pounce on him.
Yeah, here's Brad, by the way, started back in P15. I think the last car to put in a qualifying time, if I remember correctly. You see Brad there. Of course, Halloween's over, so Leroy's gone. No more live spotter for Brad. And look at that. Look at an onboard shot. Look at this. He's staring right into the face of Theodore Jr.
It's exactly why Ted put him on the back of the truck. Nobody wants to punch a baby, and Brad especially doesn't want to punch the teammate's baby. So he's just hanging back a little bit, shadowing Ted. And Brad knows he's got a ton more experience in this truck than Ted. He's probably going to be a little bit stronger over the course of a long run. He doesn't need to make those big moves just yet. He can shadow him and wait, because there's some guys who are getting very, very aggressive here. It's not just Burnt that's falling off. McGarvey's been aggressive. Toomer's been aggressive. Brad's hoping both of those guys come into his clutches very soon.
Speaking of aggressive, look at that move on the bottom, just on the outside of that shot we went by. There's Mark Kalen. He's now to the inside of Richard Regan. He's going to back it off, though, but he tried to send into that corner. Had that been 1 and 2 instead of 3 and 4, where he could have been flat out, I think he would have stuck it in there.
And this is exactly what Zach Panzarella wants to see. If Mark Kalen can get his nose in there and start slowing Richard down even more, if he can pull a 2-second gap, that might be almost insurmountable in green flag conditions. That's a pretty big gap. Here comes Mark Kalen yet again. Knows he isn't close enough to stick a nose to the inside this time. Has to get on the brakes a little bit to not get into the back of Regan through 3 and 4. But that gap is only growing up to P1. You know that number 56 is saving something. But is he slowing down too much and putting himself too much under pressure from the number 62 behind?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, I know Richard hasn't had a lot of practice here at Kentucky. He told me that last night. His focus has been on Auto Club. So I think he's having a hard time. I think, truthfully, and I think Richard's a little slow, and he's kind of holding up probably Kalen, Acosta, maybe even Burnt. If these drivers were to all commit, those 3 names I mentioned, and get around Regan, I think they can make up a little time on Panzarella, because listen, in a fixed setup race, which is where we are, all these trucks are identical. It is an anomaly for Zach Panzarella to quickly put up that kind of pace and that kind of lead on this field.
And by the way, if you were wondering who's the defending winner in terms of a unified truck series at Kentucky, it was the guy in second, Richard Regan Jr., who won the last time we came here. Shouldn't really be a surprise to think that maybe he's got something in the tank. Maybe he's thinking of something for later, but that was a couple of seasons ago. Things have changed. It's different conditions than that previous race. You never know. You never know if he's going to be able to pull off that same miracle that he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, going back in the field. Here's Bradley Holly. Now got a little bit of pressure on Mike Toomer Jr. and is now going to try to get up here through the field, and he'll catch Kevin McGarvey next. So Brad's doing a pretty great job here. Remember, Brad's in. So Brad's out here racing for fun, racing for pride, racing for stats, racing for the Season 4 title maybe. But as far as if something were to happen to Brad, no sweat off his back. He is locked in next week.
Yeah, he needs to hope for a good week this week for the Season 4 championship and hope Richard ends up having a bad week. It's looking, unfortunately, like it's the other way around. Holly had a terrible qualifying effort, was the last truck of all the trucks that set a qualifying lap time, so he's had to do the heavy work here in the opening 10 minutes of this race. He's passed 8 trucks. That's going to take a little bit out of his truck, though, having to move through all of that traffic just to get track position and still have to chase down some of those guys in the top 5.
Yeah, having to do a lot of that work, and he is doing it, but he's going to end up burning up a lot of tires in the process. So Brad will be happy whenever it be under green or yellow when he was able to put tires on the first time and then go race again, because I guarantee you when you go from 15th to 7th in a matter of 10 and a half minutes, you know, you burn up some equipment, I promise you on that. And boy, there's Mike Toomer up there getting stuck up high in that corner. And that's by Ted. And let's say what, when you get stuck up and high like Mike did right there in 3 and 4, that is an awful ride in these trucks. It feels like that car, or that truck, pardon me, will not turn.
For the last couple weeks at Martinsville and at Phoenix, it's been a little bit of a mess in some parts of the field. I think all the drivers would admit that. That's why we're seeing some shorter fields as some penalties were handed out. But we have just run 10, now 11 minutes of pure green flag racing. It's one of the longest runs we've seen in quite a long time this season. It's been excellent to see. We're already seeing some tire developments by the fact that we've gotten to run this long for the first time in tons of races.
Yeah, and a couple bits of good news for these drivers. One, this long run benefits the drivers who love to get out here and race and long run drivers. Two, this is a cooler track tonight, Joey. It's 71 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. That is a darn cool racetrack. So there's lots of grip to be found here. In fact, I'm pretty positive this is much cooler than what the official races are running this week. So the drivers who went out and used the official races to run are going to be happy to find out there's more grip here available than what they did before. But as far as it being a clean race, I'm not surprised. I mean, this track is known both virtually and real life for its fun racing. Remember, this track, I mean, essentially got its cup date, Joey, because it went out and had a couple great, I think at the time, like Grand National races. I don't remember what the sponsor was at the time, but of the Busch Cars, Xfinity Grand Nationals, or call it, and after like 3 or 4 amazing races, people wanted this on the cup schedule.
Brett Adams having a little bit of trouble on that last lap. You saw a little bit of a wiggle through the tri-oval, and you saw even more struggle on the exit of turn 2. Didn't get to qualify this week, coming back after having to serve that 1 race suspension at Phoenix last week. He doesn't have much to worry about. He's essentially locked into the championship 4 points-wise, but he's not locked into finishing this race, and he's got some drivers behind him who are starting to get aggressive.
Yeah, so that truck right there, that was behind Jacob Dunn, pardon me. That truck behind him got really slick for a second. I got concerned when I saw that truck move like that, but all is good now. So we're back here racing. Just a momentary slip on the track. Man, you're right, 13 minutes in, all is green, all is good. This feels like a classic PRL race, and I think lots of drivers are grinning due to this race right now.
Dustin Bumgarner in the 32 making the move on Alex Hillman. That blank black truck, it's the same truck he's been driving all season, but I wonder what's going to happen next season. He's put in some good showings this season. He's had some top 10s. He was locked into the playoffs after some good showings in the Grand National Series earlier. I hope he finds some kind of sponsor. I hope that truck isn't blank black again next season.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? We're sort of used to NASCAR to the idea of a truck being blank means it just, it maybe isn't performing, or it's a new truck or something of the ilk that doesn't have a sponsor. But man, in iRacing sometimes maybe you just want to be, simple, and I don't know. But you're right. Yeah, hope we get a sponsor in that 32 for next season, and he'll be back here soon. By the way, if you think this is fun and looks fun, soon signups will open for season 1 of the Precision Racing League. The trucks will go live again, Joey, just after the new year. So if you're watching this right now and you're like, darn, that looks fun, keep an eye on the Precision Racing League's website, and signups will open soon.
And the most fun part about season 1 every year, it comes a little bit before the NASCAR calendar actually starts. There's always a couple of wild card tracks. There's always some places we don't go to in the real world calendar. All sorts of opportunities. So definitely looking forward to the start of next season. Andrew Sharp is looking forward to maybe a pit stop right now because his fall through the field, don't mean to be entirely negative about Andrew Sharp, but it's only continued. This is the fight for the last spot in the top 20. This is not where the championship leader wants to be.
Joey, I know you have access to the archive stats probably in front of you. I'd be curious to know, it's unlikely Andrew Sharp has driven here before. And I don't know if you have that available to you or not, but I mean, Andrew Sharp has had an amazing showing this year, but realistically he's still like finishing, I think, his first year or just above that in the truck series. I think Andrew's struggling here. Is I don't think there's a way Andrew's driven at Kentucky before. If he has,
he is not.
I'd be surprised. Yeah, no, it's just not. As I said in the opening, we don't come here that often anymore. So that. But speaking of what you said about fun for season 1, Andrew benefited in season 1. His first win in the trucks was at Willow Springs. Yes, the trucks went to Willow Springs. I think a couple years ago, Joey, maybe you remember the trucks, I think, went to Spa.
Yeah, Spa will come up. There'll be some kind of wild card road course race. Probably a couple of short tracks we don't normally go to, something like Hickory or maybe even a dirt track. Who knows? Jacob Dunn almost dirt tracking it through 1 and 2. Not the ideal place to be. He's going to build up a little bit of momentum on Dustin Bumgarner, and they'll continue on in this battle for the last couple spots in the back of the top 20. Do have to look forward to the front of the field, though. Remember that 1.8 second gap that Zach Panzarella had pulled early in the race? That was not, in fact, insurmountable. And over the course of the last 5 minutes or so, Richard Regan Jr. has hunted him down, and it's now back to only about 2 truck lengths separating Richard Regan Jr. and Zach Panzarella.
You know, I know in PRL there are some drivers who have given Abner Acosta the title of Mr. Long Run. But, man, if that doesn't also apply to Richard Regan, I don't know what does. Like, Richard is great at this stuff, and he'll be the first to tell you he loves this stuff. You know, yes, he won last week at Phoenix. He wasn't. I don't say he wasn't happy to win, Joey, but he wasn't happy with how he won. He would rather go out there and race for 100 laps and win it, you know, by turning the wheel and steering and driving. He doesn't want to win a caution-filled race. So I guarantee you, he's happy right now that we're still green here, almost 20 minutes in, and running down Panzarella. I'm sure he knew this would come to him.
There's a little bit of a ping-ponging between this guy and Abner Acosta in the stats. They were tied on 81 wins last week. Then Abner got himself another win. So Richard, if he wins this week, will tie Abner again. He really wants to pass him, though. He wants to pass Abner for second all-time and continue this chase on to see if anybody can catch Bradley Holly in terms of the winningest driver in the PRL all-time. Holly's got 125 wins. We always thought that was an insurmountable number. We thought nobody's ever going to catch him. But Richard and Abner are only 40 off, and they've been winning more often than Brad has. Give it a couple seasons, maybe a couple years, we're going to see a fight for number 1 all-time in PRL wins.
Yeah, it's not insurmountable. It seems like you said only 40. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. But I mean, with how often Abner and Richard find their way into wins, and especially for Abner, you know, doing some road course racing every now and then as well, it's not insurmountable. So we'll wait to see how that plays out. Man, Burnt is up on that wall again. You saw that based on how Teddy came down off the track, because this wall here at Kentucky, Joey, this is a hugger. That means when you grab this wall at Kentucky, it wants to suck you in. It wants to kind of like hug you like an octopus and hold on to you.
That's the second time Burnt has done that. He's able to fight back. He got a run on the high side in 3 and 4, but into turn 1, gives that wall a little bit more room. He holds his tentacles in to not get stuck this time.
You ever been hugged by an octopus?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, fair enough. Well, that's what I imagine it feels like hitting the wall Kentucky. Yeah, that's just a wild ride. But, I mean, Zachary Burnt, all things considered, is, you know, still doing all right in this race. Obviously, his qualifying run is doing better than where he's running. So we'll see if he can get this here with the trucks. Oh, hold on. Here's our first pit stop, and it's from a win-and-in driver. That's James Morgan. Now, he told me pre-race, Joey, he said, I'm going to throw strategy out the window and try something different. And I think pitting 20 minutes in might be different.
Trying something different? It can work, but is it just trying something different for the sake of trying something different? I'll have to wait and see what the rest of the field does to react, because we're not even halfway through this race. You cannot make it to the end of the race from here. Strategy's wide open here. We haven't had such a long green flag run in a long time. I don't know if anybody's really been thinking about strategy. So some of these more experienced drivers might have to start falling back on their experience and thinking about what they might have done in previous years. Nobody's going to be better at that than Austin Hunter. He's got more starts here than anybody else. He's got 6.
Yeah, Austin here, of course, one another went-in driver, 23 points to the bad on that line. Ironically, lined up right there with Mike Toomer Jr., who was also 23 points down coming in. So both those drivers fighting for something. What I wonder about Morgan here, Joey, is will he be a trendsetter? Once he gets out on track and he begins passing cars with new tires, which will be impressive to see just by default of 20-minute newer tires, I wonder if that will be a trendsetter for people to go, oh, hey, that looks fun. I want that. Well, that's what I'm beginning to wonder. Or if he really is going to be off cycle and be able to kind of just be different.
I think he's got to hope for a caution of some sort after he gets back on the lead lap, because there's only 10 minutes to go until halfway. I feel like there's no way that anybody else follows him in here. It's such a risk to have to go for a 2-stop. I don't see anybody else coming in to cover him off. I feel like he is just going to be the lone wolf there, trying to throw a Hail Mary and trying to do something, because he's not making the playoffs if he doesn't.
Yeah, James, by the way, lives in Southern Ohio, so basically a home track for him. As far as on the NASCAR side, I would think this would have to be the closest track to him location-wise. I think Kentucky would be closer than Mid-Ohio, so he would love to come out here and grab a win at essentially his home track. Look at Richard Regan now, being a menace all over the back end of Zach Panzarella. But look what he's doing. Racing clean, being aggressive, making himself known. Just kind of wants to see if that presence alone can intimidate the former season champion and Zach Panzarella.
But this is going to be a real test now. Richard's been able to close the gap. He's been able to get close to Panzarella. Will he actually be able to pass him? We knew passing was possible early on in the race. We knew passing was possible if you were on fresh tires and you wanted to send it while other people were saving. Is it possible when you're both on old tires? Not sure. But big development. Bradley Holly and Jeff Evans. 2 new takers on pit road. We haven't made it to halfway in the race, but Holly and Evans are both down.
Yeah, I think it's important to say I'm using the term 20 minutes, but right now, I mean, we're talking lap 40 is where we are lap-wise. That's a lot of laps on any set of tires. So I am wondering if, who will come down and win, or if everyone's committed to halfway. Because, I mean, 40 laps on a set of tires at Kentucky is a pretty big amount to run there. Now, you see James Morgan in the back of the shot there, that black and red machine. What I'm curious about is how quickly can he carve his way through this field, Joey. And that's how we'll determine if those tires are really that big of a difference. Here he is in the back of that shot there.
Yeah, I got to be honest, I don't think you can make it to halfway now. I think I was wrong. I think the amount of laps we've turned under green flag conditions is just so many that you're not going to be able to do it. There is James Morgan, so fast, and so many trucks are indeed coming down pit road now. Schwartz, Lowendick, McGarvey, Adams, Hunter, Burt. You've got to come in soon, just based on fuel. Question of how far can you stretch it if you're going to stay out?
Yeah, that'll be the question right now, is what you want to do with it. You see Morgan out cutting the inside. That'll be below Cowgill, below his teammates. So we'll see more trucks now. Richard Regan's in. Abner Acosta's in. Is that Mark Kalin, I believe, is also in right behind him with that black truck.
Race leader Zach Panzarella going around one more time. He's got to hope that Richard has a little bit of a bobble here, because those new tires, even with one lap of an out lap, are going to be a little bit of a help to him. It's going to be critical off pit road here, though. Abner Acosta pulling in the stall directly behind Regan. This is potentially the race for the lead, as both trucks are going to go up on the jacks. They're going to take all 4 tires, take not enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. And Zach Panzarella is going to come in this time to try and cover both of them off. Watch those numbers tick forward. There's going to be no change between these two. But now we wait about 30 seconds for the blend with Zach Panzarella, who's down now.
Yeah, in fact, all 3. Mark Kalin was right behind them, so that'll stay the same. But there went Morgan on around them, so Morgan has basically almost unlapped himself. He just needs to go ahead and get around the leader, who's now on pit road. So now it's Dalton Geyer, Jacob Dunn, Dustin Bumgarner. Dalton Geyer are the Colton Lane, sorry, up front. I got my names confused for a second. Up front here. So once those pits, we'll see who cycles back around the track here. That was a wide pit out there. I got concerned for a second. But let me give you an idea, Joey, for what the difference in tires is. James Morgan, a few laps out. Last lap, a 30.872. Colton Lane, your current leader, a 32.309. Almost 2 seconds of time on a newer set of tires.
We'll get you updated on the order in one moment, but it was not a good pit stop for Zach Panzarella, about half a second slower than anybody else, and you see that reflected in the order as Richard Regan Jr. is going to unlap himself on Colton Lane. He's staying out as long as possible, hoping for a caution, hoping for a miracle. The top 5 trucks have not yet pitted The race order is everybody below them. James Morgan, who made that early pit stop, has taken the overall lead. He is on much older tires, 5-lap older tires, than anybody else on his same strategy. Second is Bradley Holly, who pitted 3 laps before Regan and Acosta. Then you have Regan and Acosta fighting for overall third, most likely. And here are 2 of those trucks who are hoping for a miracle. Didn't quite get it. The 2 Team DDI trucks of Geyer and Hillman are forced down pit road.
Yep, you see down at pit road they're going to go. So that'll leave Colton Lane, Bumgarner, and Tom Amacy as the 3 trucks remaining on the lead lap. And to what, Joey, they're coming closer and closer by the lap to your halfway prediction. So maybe it is doable. We'll wait and find out and see what comes of that. But here we believe is the race for the net lead, or at least the net second and third, pardon me. This is Abner Acosta and Mark Kalin. Man, what a resurgence Mark Kalin has had this season and this year, Joey. Got his first win last season on a fuel strategy race, has a win this season, and just feels, I don't want to say more relevant, Joey, maybe a better word. It's not more relevant. Mark's always been relevant, but it seems like he kind of picked up the skill a little bit. It's not so much about the wall slaps anymore and the meme of Bubba the wall sponge. He's really kind of started like almost take this more serious, it feels like.
Yeah, no more... Previous seasons when we came to places like Kentucky or Texas, we'd see Mark getting loose every lap off of 4. This time, he's passing the tire wizard Abner Acosta through 1 and 2, and that'll be net 4th for Mark Kalin as we speak. It's not been a good early run in this second run for Abner Acosta. He came out of pit road right behind Richard Regan Jr. They were about a truck length apart. 2.6 seconds now separate Regan and Acosta, who are separated by nothing after those 2 pit stops.
Wow, what a confidence boost that is for Mark Kalin, by the way, right there, Joey. If you can pass Abner Acosta on track, that's got to feel great. I mean, Abner is one of the all-time greats of PRL. Everyone knows his name. And if you can pass him, you must feel good about what you are accomplishing. Well, right now, here we are, 33 minutes left. So that means we're 27 minutes in. Colton Lane still leading. You have to think at this point, Joey, Lane, Bumgarner, and Amacy are basically whatever DD they believe in. They're basically praying for a caution. They're praying that a caution comes out and everyone would pit with them and they can keep their track position at this point.
It's not going to come for Bumgarner, unfortunately. He comes down pit road this time and he misses pit road at that. Not only going to be an unsafe pit entry penalty, it's going to be a slower pit stop. So Dustin Bumgarner decided to take the risk, was hoping for a miracle. He did not get it. He's going to be sitting in this pit stall for quite a while. Tom Amacy follows him in. Bradley Holly gets by both of them on the front stretch. He's now in third. Richard Regan Jr. just got by him a couple of moments ago, and that gap to James Morgan has been totally closed as well. Regan, who's on 8-lap fresher tires than James Morgan, if he passes the 12, he's in the net lead. Seems like he's going to do that very soon. But here's what happened to Dustin Bumgarner first and foremost. Little bit of a slide, knocks out the cone, and spins himself into the grass.
That's not good. Also want to make a note off screen. Alex Hillman had a pit road penalty as well. You saw on the left side ticker board, his pit stop was up over 40 seconds. So that's an unfortunate news for Alex as well. We are riding back on board Tabata Rossi Esports number 12, the red machine of James Morgan. As he said, he wants to throw caution to the wind tonight. Not a literal caution, just, be different. See what he can make happen. And right now, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's not the lead anymore. As I mentioned, Regan was able to blow by him. Wasn't even a competition, but he's in now third behind Bradley Holly. A little bit of a margin back to Mark Kalin. He only has 8-lap older tires than Kalin does. That is quite a few laps. They're going to be more aged, but when the tires start to even out later on in the run, James Morgan might not be in a terrible spot here to get a top 3 or a top 5 at the end of it all. That would be a pretty solid run for him. I don't know if that would be enough to make his way into the playoffs and dump Acosta and Lowendick out. He'd essentially need a win for that, but still, top 3, top 5, that's a confidence boost.
It is, and it also does him some good in the season 4 points as well. So that would be a great. And listen, Morgan really early this year, Joey, back when you were in the car, had an incredible season, almost won a points title back early this year. And since then, I don't know what's happened. Really kind of, I don't want to say fell back, and it's insulting to what he's done, but it's kind of fallen back a little bit in the points since then. But obviously still qualified for the playoffs and is trying to make this work. So everyone at Tabata Rossi Esports is proud of James for what he's done this season. Got a win earlier this season, or earlier this year, pardon me, I should say, and has been doing pretty well.
Ticking closer to the halfway mark in this race. All 25 trucks still running on track, and not a single caution has flown. There has never been a caution-free truck race at Kentucky Speedway in the PRL. There's been 2 one-caution races. There's never been a caution-free race. Are we going to make history tonight, or is something brewing? Side by side, double file on the backstretch. Hunter and Adams are able to figure out their problems. Mike Richter and Zachary Burnt, though, they're still going at it as Burnt rips around the outside of Richter.
You have to think no one will be happier tonight for this to be caution-free than Austin Hunter, because he's had an incredibly bad luck this season about the cautions and which way his car is oriented after said cautions. And in fact, he has a flip counter somewhere on that truck. So if he stays caution-free, Vegas odds say Austin Hunter stays on 4 wheels.
That'd be big stuff. And Zachary Burnt, you're seeing him ripping through this pack. This is not a fresh tire kind of thing. He is on identically aged tires to all the trucks around him. And once again, gets around Austin Hunter. Hunter's going to try and switch it back. They're going to be side by side down the front stretch. But Zachary Burnt has looked absolutely rapid in this short run. And he's only got 2 more AM trucks ahead of him to take second and maybe think about chasing down Zach Panzarella, who's a couple seconds up the road.
Yeah, doing a pretty great job here right now. Is Burnt staying in this race and keeping himself relevant here? Now watching a lot of the action happen. There's Brett Adams on the inside. Remember, Brett, of course, locked in. So he's out here just racing for fun tonight. Maybe still racing for that Season 4 title, but knows he's not in a win and in. He's not in any kind of stressful spot. He's taking care of that. So he can fall back and have fun with this race. I mean, there's Burnt again. Burnt's using the outside of these corners, Joey, and I don't know. I'm not. I mean, that's 1 and 2. That's the easier high side to be on. But if you choose to be on the outside of 3 and 4, that's a choice.
There's Burnt sending it down to the bottom in 3 and 4. The ideal run doesn't work out for him. Gets up to Patrick Cowgill, got a little bit tight, clipped the apron a little bit, and they'll let the 2 teammates, Austin Hunter and McGarvey, go at it. James Morgan has had a little bit more trouble, by the way. I mentioned he may be looking to hold on to a top 3 or a top 5. Kalen and Acosta blew by him. Zach Panzarella just blew by him. He may now be in danger of losing spots to Lowendick and Evans as well. So top 8 with those older tires may be what James Morgan is looking for at his best. He's probably not going to fall back into the clutches of these guys. They're about 6 seconds behind the lead 8.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm almost wondering, you kind of hinted in the beginning of the cycle if Morgan's going for that 2-stop strategy, and I kind of wonder if that's what's going to take for him to be, able to run again. My problem is, with only 27 minutes left, I just don't know if he can do that. Like, I don't know if he can get back up in front and be relevant again in this race. Well, Joey, last week we talked about the passing, unfortunately, of Thomas Sink's dog, Tago. And if we headed forward and we find Jeff Evans on track, Jeff and some other teammates at Whataback wanted to celebrate and honor Tago in their own way. So some of the Whataback drivers this week are carrying Tago on the bed of their trucks. Those are the moments that are special, Joey, in a league, in iRacing specifically. We get to have our own trucks and platforms to honor and just pay tribute to things that mean special things to us.
Yeah, it's an excellent tribute. Everybody still leaving our thoughts with Tom. Hopefully he's watching tonight, and we will see Tom back at Auto Club next week for the season finale. He's pretty good at Auto Club. That'd be a pretty solid place for Tom to return and maybe fight for his first win in a couple of years. That'd be a big comeback story, and I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Really great emotional story for Tom to come back, first race back, and make that happen. So, man, look at this battle right here. Put a blanket on these trucks here. There's Brett Adams, Andrew Sharp, Austin Hunter, Mike Richter, other trucks. I think Patrick Cowgill there in the 77. Or sorry, Kevin McGarvey, pardon me, in the 77. I got my numbers mixed up for a second. I mean, all these trucks right here together. This is the beauty of Kentucky. Like, we're not exactly drafting. We're not Daytona. We're not bump drafting. We're not all that. But everyone stays so close together.
And Andrew Sharp, for all the dogging we've done on him tonight, for all the bad things we've said about him trying to figure out Kentucky, He is with essentially all of his other AM competitors except for Zach Panzarella right now. He has been learning in the first half of this race. He's been building speed. And just like every week when we say, oh, Andrew Sharpie's struggling, learning a new track, somehow he finds himself in contention for a podium at the end of it all.
Yeah, and Andrew's been loving this, man. I talk to Andrew from time to time, and he loves being in the trucks. He said this, he's now like oval committed for the first season in forever. Andrew is purely oval committed to PRL. There's no road course in Andrew's schedule this year. He has really thrown himself full force into these trucks. And I think it shows. Not that he hasn't had great seasons before, but he's just having a really great, successful season this time. And really is a driver that, despite having that current AM driver tag, races up there just as well as some of the pros.
And 2 of the trucks in this battle, 3 of the trucks in this battle, if you count Patrick Cowgill a little bit up the road, will fight for the AM Championship next week. It's essentially locked in unless there's some kind of miracle and some kind of awkward strategy that ends up with somebody else winning their way in. Sharp, Cowgill, Panzarella, and Brett Adams are all essentially pointed into the championship 4. Here's James Morgan, though. We knew every truck in this field is going to have to make a second stop unless they can pull off a miracle in Colton Lane's case. Every truck is going to have to make a second stop, and James Morgan is getting his second stop out of the way earlier than anybody else.
Hey, why not? Listen, there's a benefit to being first on pit road. It's empty, right? That sounds simple to say, but it's true. Sometimes there's nothing more comforting to know you can get down pit road by yourself, not get hit by someone, not be in someone's way, not have someone in your way. So why not try it out? I mean, as you said, Morgan wants to try anything tonight to find his way in. I mean, right now, Ted Lowendick is running in this race and not wrecked out, so he will likely advance in that 4th spot. So, I mean, he's currently running P6. There's no way he doesn't if he finishes right there.
Yeah, that is a big conversation now for Abner Acosta. If we see P4, he's about 2 seconds ahead of Ted Lowendick. He's only 2 spots ahead of Ted Lowendick, though, and he needs to outscore Ted by 15 points in the PRL point system. That essentially means 15 positions, or to make it simpler, Abner needs to win and Ted doesn't. So there needs to be some kind of big shift up there if Abner Acosta wants to dump Ted Lowendick out of the championship 4. There's some big shifting on track in the meantime as Brett Adams and Andrew Sharp, 2 guys who are going to be fighting for the AM Championship next week at Auto Club. They're fighting for track position right now, and Sharp gets him around the outside.
Yeah, nice pass by Sharp here as we're now down to about the little less than the 23-minute mark. And Joey, I'm going to put this out there. I was impressed by the runs that Colton Lane put into that before pitting. I don't think he exactly made it halfway, but I'm curious to see what Colton Lane can do with that. I'm curious if Colton Lane maybe struck strategy gold, and we'll find it out here if we stay green here for the next 22.5 minutes. But I'm excited to see what it's going to work out. There's James Morgan, by the way, brand new tires. So he's going to have an easy pass around this field for the moment, and he will once again need to unlap himself here and see what he can make of that.
Colton Lane is a good driver to talk about because he made it to about 31 minutes when he pitted. He needs to do 31 minutes in this second stint. That's about a 2-minute longer stint than he did. That would be about 4 extra laps of fuel he would need to save. I wonder if that's possible. He had a pretty big margin when he came down pit road. It was about 20 seconds or maybe about 15 seconds back to Richard Regan Jr. when he pitted. Is it possible to save 4 laps of fuel and not lose those 15 seconds? That's what Colton Lane's thinking about right now if he wants to pull off the one stop.
It is possible, but if we can find Colton Lane on track in the broadcast remote, the problem for Colton right now is he's running all by himself. I think if you want to save gas here, Joey, you're going to have to be in a draft with someone up behind them and letting that draft sort of carry the car every now and then. I don't think you can save 4 laps of gas running with that big an open track ahead of you.
Last lap for Colton Lane was a 31.5. Last lap for Richard Regan Jr. in the lead, 32.0. So I think that tells us that Colton's pushing right now. I don't know if he's going to try and make it to the end of this race on fuel, but you never know. That might just be the difference of new tires. He might still be saving fuel and still be that fast with those very new tires. There's a close battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th now. Holly has slowly fallen back. Remember, he's on 3-lap older tires than both Kalen and Acosta. Acosta's been saving, Mark Kalen's been pushing, and Acosta's going to take third.
Yeah, don't look now, but here comes Mr. Long Run. That's what his competitors call him. So here he comes now up a spot here in the P3, now up on the podium, but he doesn't want that. As far as Abner's concerned, Joey, there's one thing that matters tonight, and it's the race win. More than likely, without the race win, he will not be part of the Final Four. And man, not that there's not other names involved in that story, but in a way, what a headline it will be for PRL if Abner Acosta is not your Final Four. Like, for most drivers, when this 16-field car truck field began, a lot of people would have penciled Abner into the Final Four. And the fact to think he's fighting for it right now talks about how great this field is, how great the competition is, and how tough it's been this year.
You know, the last time we had a unified truck series in 2022, Abner Acosta was the playoff champion. So, in a way, he is the defending playoff champion. If he misses it, that would be quite the upset, leaving the door open for a new driver to potentially take their first truck series title. It would be Bradley Holly's third truck series title, be Richard Regan Jr.'s first truck series title, and for Kalen and Lowendick, it would be their very, very first. So, could be a very, very happy driver either way. Abner Acosta, though, gets to the inside of Holly. Doesn't even need to worry about that being a fight. Those tires are not only 3 laps fresher, with Acosta's saving, they're probably about 10 laps fresher feeling, and Acosta's going to blow by Holly. Kalen's going to do the same.
And I almost wonder if there's a bit of respect there between Holly and Acosta. Brad knows what Abner's fighting for. You know, Brad knows, he gets it. You know, you don't want to be that guy who's known as, you know, messing it up, quote unquote. You wouldn't want someone messing up your run if you're in a spot. Hold on, here comes Brad down pit road. So here's our next car on the 2-tire run. Man, that car wiggled down pit road. Thought maybe it was going to have a speeding problem, but got it checked out. So maybe that's why Brad let Abner go, because he knew he was coming down pit road this time.
We love wide open strategy.
Sorry, Joey, sorry to cut you off. Black flag Bradley Holly. He must have been speeding. He has a black flag.
Trouble, trouble, trouble. That is the difficulty of green flag pit stops. Brad's done plenty of them. He's got tons of experience, but even with the best, you can get caught out just being a fraction of a mile per hour over. And Bradley Holly's hope for this win and hope for this championship are over.
You see right there on the screen, speeding in pit. So got caught speeding. He'll now hold for that penalty, which will feel like about 9 years if you're Bradley Holly. You see the timer ticking down. You kind of see it there on the screen. It's hard to read, but just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting if you're Bradley Holly.
He is still essentially locked into the championship 4 on points, so there is no worry in terms of the playoff championship. But in the Season 4 championship, he already had a little bit of a margin to Richard Regan Jr. That is only going to grow tonight and may make it almost impossible for Bradley Holly to win this Season 4 championship. You just see him now getting out of his pit box and ending up back out on track. The majority of the field is coming down in this pit cycle. Sharp is in, Burnt, Cowgill. Basically everybody from Tom and Macy back has made their second and final stop.
So going back real quick to that speeding penalty, you know, one of the things we learn in school, Joey, is for every positive, there's an equal and opposite negative reaction that happens in life. Well, in this case, for the negative of Bradley Holly of the speeding penalty, I would think the positive has to be for Abner Acosta. That's one less person he has to race now, and Abner would be in a better position right now. Currently leading, by the way, he will get a point for leading a lap. That means the gap to Teddy's a little less, but I still believe it's winning in for Abner Acosta.
And how many times have we seen this? A chess match at the end of a long run between Abner Acosta and Richard Regan Jr. One driver comes in early, one driver comes in late and has to do the chasing. It feels like there's been so many races where it's been these specific two. In this exact scenario, Richard was the first one to bite. He's going to be on fresh tires. He's going to pull a big lead. But Abner, how far does he stretch this? How far does he go? And how big is that gap going to be when he has to try and chase down Richard Regan Jr. to the end of this race?
And the other question to add on to the great questions you asked is if Abner waits too long, as James Morgan unlaps himself, if Abner waits too long, can he therefore benefit from 4 tires? Right? Is he going to wait so long to pit that he's not able to justify taking 4 tires, and does Richard run him down that way? That's what's in my head right now, because we're already about 15 and a half minutes left here. If Abner doesn't pit soon, there's no way you justify 4 tires, and then you're going to be much slower than Richard Regan Jr.
By the way, if you were thinking about the Colton Lane fuel miracle, it's not happening. Colton just came down pit road. He's doing the normal thing. He's doing the normal strategy. He tried to throw a Hail Mary out there, hoped for a caution. Unfortunately, as so often happens, we love to see alternate strategies rewarded, but just didn't go his way. He's made his final stop, and he'll be fighting in the last couple spots in the top 20.
Well, that's the hope I had. I mean, I kind of wish Colton had stuck to it, because you'd think he could have gone longer than he did this time, but I don't know. But yeah, Colton Lane, I thought maybe could have been a contender for a sneaky play, but it's going to go ahead and come down pit road here. But here's Patrick Calgill on screen. I kind of misidentified his truck earlier, and I apologize for that. But here he is, currently running P10 on track. As Patrick's just kind of been in the middle of the field today, just kind of having a run here at Phoenix, Kentucky, has not been able to get up at the front of this field, and really just, maybe just kind of happy he's already locked in with the way this truck is behaving tonight.
I mean, I think it's good for Patrick to have a quiet week. He's had a tough season. He's had some good results. He's also had some moments where he's tripped over some other trucks. He's gotten some penalties in one of his first couple of seasons where he's really in the spotlight. I feel like in the first couple seasons, or the first majority of the seasons in his PRL career, he was pretty clean, pretty unnoticeable. Now he's gotten a little bit aggressive, gotten some of that stuff out, and now he's trying to finish the season totally clean, trying to get some couple good runs in. But Mark Kalin, saw him sitting there for the entirety of those sentences I was saying. That's because he has also gotten a black flag, same exact penalty as Bradley Holly, speeding on pit road. Mark Kalin is out of the fight for this win as well.
Hey, speaking of penalties, I want to point out, you mentioned Colton Lane pitting. I now see Colton Lane and Nicholas Hunter as being deemed required damage to fix by race control.
Ooh,
so there may be an incident there that I just noticed by looking through timing and scoring, and I apologize for just catching it. So maybe Colton Lane's pitting early was not exactly his choice.
I think this is unrelated. I think they are both recent additions to pit road. I think they might have just had an accident with each other. Didn't bring out a caution, so we didn't notice it, but this looks to be very recent, as Hunter's only been in the pits for about 2 minutes. Colton's only been in the pits for a couple of seconds. Here is what happened between the two of them. Here's Colton Lane on your screen, losing it on his own in turn 4, smacking the wall. And where is his teammate Nick Hunter going to come into this conversation?
Or maybe they're separate. Maybe they're not related at all. Let's see. Here's Colton Lane down on the apron. Got that infamous puffing of smoke. I think they're going to be different.
Yeah, I think they were unrelated. But more importantly, here's Nick Hunter. In the meantime, your race leader, Abner Acosta, is on pit road, by the way. You'll see that in the bottom box. Here's what happened to Nick Hunter. Trying to come down pit road, locks it up, and locks himself into the big green wall in the infield. 2 incidents. No caution brought out by either of them, though. This is important, though. Richard Regan Jr. is easily going to take the lead. No question there. But how big is the gap to Abner Acosta? And will Abner be able to close that gap down and chase Regan down for this win over the next 12 minutes?
Yeah, that'll be the question. By the way, notice there, Nick was trying to rival his brother there, Joey. Just kind of only got 2 wheels off the ground, but, apparently it runs in the family. But unfortunate for Nick and for Colton, unrelated. Bad luck for Whataback Racing right there, as both drivers having those moments. But here we come, Abner Acosta back on track, and want to take a look and see per his pit stop time, Joey. 37-second pit delta versus 42 for Richard Regan.
It's a 2-tire stop.
Less. It's got to be a 2-tire stop, yeah.
2-tire stop for Abner Acosta, saving himself a couple of crucial seconds. But will the trade-off of having 2 less fresh tires scupper Abner Acosta's momentum? That is a huge gap to have to make up over 12 minutes. 10 seconds he needs to make up over the next 24 or 25 laps. That's a big ask on only 2 tires.
And especially for tires that aren't that far apart. I mean, there's 8 laps between them of when Regan pitted and when Abner Acosta pitted. Regan was on lap 81, Acosta was on lap 89. I'm concerned about the 2 tires at this track. I mean, obviously, Abner has plenty of experience and knows what he's doing. But I'm concerned about the 2 tires and what it's going to do in turns 3 and 4 with how tricky that corner is.
Lowendick and Evans, this is going to be the battle for likely P4 and P5, with Holly and Kalin taking themselves out of contention. Would be yet another good day for Ted Lowendick. He's had so many of these days where he's been a little bit anonymous, you know, started in the back part of the top 10, maybe in the teens, but as his competitors have taken each other out, as he's learned from everybody, he somehow ends up in a top 5 position pretty comfortably at the end of it all.
Yeah, doing pretty great. By the way, off screen, second burst, same as the first. Alex Tillman, black flag pit road. So sorry to hear that for Alex. Lots of black flags. It's almost like we haven't done green flag pit stops in a while, Joey.
Yeah, it's hard to learn. Catching up on the brakes in these trucks. We haven't gone to a road course all season either. It's tough if you don't practice. Doesn't really work out. Doyle Lawrence, by the way, still yet to pit. That is not a legitimate pass for the lead. He is on 50 lap old tires. He will need to come down pit road very soon, and very soon is right now. As Doyle Lawrence does bring it down pit road, everybody has now completed, or at least are in the process of completing, their second and final stops.
And I want to come back to a great point you made. I think a lot of drivers fail to practice pit stops, whether it be green flag, yellow flag, whatever. There's a lot of time to be gained and lost on pit road, and not just by 2 tires or 4 tires, but by how willing you are to attack pit road. Meaning, or do you want someone who kind of wants to limp it in there and get on the brakes early so you don't speed? Do you have the confidence to slow that truck down right at the line? There's a lot of time to be gained and lost, and time on pit road can be massive when it comes to time on track.
Battle for second in AM. Patrick Cowgill, Andrew Sharp, Zachary Burnt. All these guys about 10 seconds off the AM leader, Zach Panzarella. He's been competing with the pros tonight, but the podium still ever important. Big points important for maybe second in the championship or for Patrick Cowgill, who's looking to make that happen. They'll continue raging this on. If you want an Abner Acosta update for the race lead, by the way, he needs to consistently be about half a second faster than Richard Regan Jr. every lap. That last lap, he was 4/10 faster than Regan. It's now about an 8.2 second gap after it was about a 15 second gap at its biggest. Acosta's certainly closing the gap. Does he have enough time to complete the chase and catch Richard, though?
Yeah, I don't think so, Joey. And the reason I don't think so is he's got cars in front of him. He's got Lowendick, Morgan, and Panzarella in front of him. So it's not just about running the lap time. It's about also getting around those vehicles. And listen, you have to think in the back of someone's mind, you know, if you're a Ted Lowendick or if you're a Richard Regan, next week would be a little easier without Abner Acosta involved in the Final Four. You would have to think in some way, no disrespect to the other drivers, but sometimes you'll hear drivers talk about, man, like, I don't want to race that guy for a title. I don't want to race so-and-so for a title. Well, if I could choose to race Abner Acosta or not race Abner Acosta for a title with how great he is, I would pick not.
Patrick Cowgill dealing with a little bit of... Patrick Cowgill getting by Dalton Geyer, actually. I thought that was the lap truck of Brett Adams, but my eyes deceived me. That is a legitimate pass for position, and now it's nearly 3 wide as Andrew Sharp blocks off Mark Kalin. Mark Kalin is the lap car in all of this. Remember, he got a pit lane speeding penalty a couple of laps ago. He's trying to get back on the lead lap. He's on fresher tires, but he is not fighting these guys for position.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to come back into thought there, but yeah, I think we'll see how that works out. So I wonder if Ted would block Abner to help keep him out of the Final Four. We'll wait and see. But you're right, Sharp is doing great. Cowgill is doing great. For both these drivers, this has to be a bit of a momentum build for next week. Because remember, next week it's, who's the top of the Final Four in Pro, who's the top of the Final Four in AM. Well, if you're running consistently second and third the week before, I would think that's got to be a pretty big momentum build for both Cowgill and Sharp coming into that race and seeing what can happen. There's Mike Toomer Jr. emerging back on track. Apparently can't be right. He just pitted, I wouldn't think, but we'll wait and see. He did just pit on lap 96.
Yeah, Toomer's had some trouble today. He's had a penalty, if I'm not mistaken. He's been off strategy. He'll rejoin and just try and make it to the end of this race. By the way, Abner Acosta, in the space of the last 2 laps, he's made 3 passes. He got by Morgan, he got by Lowendick, he got by Panzarella, and now there are 0 trucks between Abner Acosta and race leader Richard Regan Jr. On that last lap, Acosta was 4/10 faster than Regan again. It's a tough math game, though. 6 minutes to go at the line. That's 12 laps. And he needs to make up 6 seconds. 6.5 seconds now. He needs to be more than half a second a lap faster than Regan to catch him.
Yeah, take away everything I said. I thought those trucks would have been more in the way maybe on purpose or on accident of Abner than they were. If I was Ted Lowendick, I would have probably been in the way a little bit and slowed him up. That's who Ted needs to not win for Ted to be in next week. And that's just the pure math of how it works out. But right, this past time by Richard Regan, a 31.682. Abner Acosta, a 31.235. So again, 0.4 of a second. The problem I have, Joey, I don't know if it's enough. I think Abner needs a very, very quick yellow to close this field up if he wants to catch Richard Regan.
Well, if we're going to get a yellow, it needs to come out essentially now if we want to get a restart. If it happens any later than this, I think we will end this race under yellow. We don't want to see a yellow. We've had a green flag race for the last 55 minutes. We're on track for the first ever caution-free PRL truck race at Kentucky. We are hoping that can continue, and I think it will. Everybody's stratified out in this field. Nobody's really in a dangerous pack that could lead to a caution. I think we're going to do it. And by the way, Ted Lowendick, in the middle of that thought, made the move on Zach Panzarella. Yet another week where, as I mentioned, Ted Lowendick sort of sits in the shadows, sits in silence. He's going to get a podium for all of his efforts, and that's going to be big momentum as he sets his sights on the championship for next week.
And that's the kind of move that wins championships, both season 4 championship or the year long. Being consistent. That's what drivers talk about all year long, is being consistent in how you run it. And Ted's often one of those drivers that, maybe he's not involved in that many replays that we do when we have, big moments in a race, but always seems to kind of find his way onto the results page on the first page time after time. You're right. And that's where it is. But here we go. 4 minutes to go. I would think now we're at the point of no return, just for the record. So you're right, Joey. If a caution comes out now, we're done, I would believe. So Abner Acosta now has to do it the hard way. And for the record, he is still about 0.3 of a second faster than Richard Regan lap by lap. But there's still about a 5-second gap between them.
Yeah, he's going to continue closing that gap down, but he needs a huge amount of fall off for Regan in the next couple of laps if he wants to make this happen. Abner's not going to give up. He's going to keep the chase on because you never know what could happen. There's always the possibility of a mistake. Kentucky is a track where mistakes are punished heavily. There's walls that come out. If you get a little bit tight in turn 3 and you have to lift, you're losing almost a full 2 seconds trying to bring it back together. So Abner Acosta cannot give up from second, and he absolutely will not. The fight for second, though, in the AM division rages on. These guys are going to be going at it until the checkered flag. Andrew Sharp in the purple and pink truck, Patrick Cowgill in the gray truck, and Zachary Burnt in the bright green. They've been going at it for the last 10 minutes, and they've all equaled out to have a 3-minute battle for P2.
Yeah, this has been a great battle, and by far, I believe it to be our closest battle on track as we sit here with less than 3 minutes to go, and everyone here is just fighting for something. At this point, they're having fun. I'm sure all three of those guys are smiling. They're having a good time. They're like, hey, this is the kind of stuff I do this for. These battles right here, and you're looking for anything at this point to find an advantage. But tell you what, that far into the run for those drivers, I mean, they are all put on lap 79. We're now on lap 107. Those tires are cooked.
Andrew Sharp coming off his best result of the season, finished second last week at Phoenix, only to Richard Regan Jr. He's proven that he can fight with the pros this season, and he is going to be a contender next year. But he's also a contender this year. He's also thinking about the AM Championship next week at Auto Club. He's going to be fighting Patrick Cowgill for that. Definitely wants to throw one last punch in this fight and tell Patrick, no, you are not going to be a favorite above me next week. I'm going to beat you on track here. You're going to have to pass me next week as well.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see how that turns out. You're right. This is a little bit what that is. Maybe just a little bit of early menacing, making your presence felt for next week. He's kind of being there, but these guys have been at it all year long right now. And, of course, Andrew is your AM points leader, so Andrew will walk away probably with a bigger lead tonight, I would think, than what he came in with. So Andrew could end up winning 2 titles next week, Joey.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to mathematically seal the AM Championship this week. It's very possible that he does, but that's calculation for another day, as Jeff Evans and James Morgan are going at it. Last spot in the top 5. James Morgan, the proprietor of the alternate strategy today, came in earlier than anybody else in both the first stop and the second stop. It's all evened out to him being in the top 5. And he desperately wants to hold on to that last spot in the top 5. He does not want Jeff Evans stealing this from him after all the work he's done on this strategy.
And listen, unfortunately, it looks like for both these drivers, Joey, the Final Four is not in play. I think that's fair to say at this point. But there's still a Season 4 points title on the pro side, and both these drivers are fighting for that. And both these drivers not able to qualify tonight. So, I mean, think about that. James Morgan is up 10 spots. Jeff Evans is up 12 spots from what he started. So both these drivers have had an incredible run here at Kentucky.
The white flag's going to be in the air this time by, so if Morgan wants to hang on, he's only got to do it for a little while longer. Off of turn 2, though, Jeff Evans clears him and looks to run away into the distance. But on the front stretch right now, Richard Regan Jr. has taken the white flag, and he's got one more time around to win yet another race this season. Abner Acosta was on the chase. He had fresher tires, but it was just a little bit too much and a little bit too long to actually be able to make that work. Richard Regan Jr., he's already locked into the Championship 4 with a win at Phoenix last week, but he's going to go 2 weeks in a row and tie Abner Acosta's second all-time. Richard Regan Jr. is an 82-time PRL winner, and he's going to fight for yet another playoff championship next week at Phoenix, and might have one hand on the Season 4 championship now.
There it is. Great run by Richard Regan Jr. Of note, by the way, Zach Panzarella is going to be the AMP winner for this race. He'll finish P4 overall. So not that he needed to lock in a win, but he has done it. So he is for sure in. And I would think, Joey, we'll look at the results in a minute, but I think it's Final Four as we came in is how we're going to leave. Lowendick, your final spot in the pro side. Adams, your final spot on the AM side.
Yes, there were no big shifts in the points. Nothing's really going to change. The big upset, Abner Acosta, who's had a tough season, will not make the Championship 4 and will not be able to defend his Truck Series playoff championship from 2 years ago. Ted Lowendick will take the final spot in the Championship 4. It'll be Richard Regan Jr., Mark Kalin, Bradley Holly, and Ted Lowendick fighting for the Pro Truck Series Championship in the PRL this year. It'll be Andrew Sharp, Patrick Cowgill, Zach Panzarella, and Brett Adams fighting for the AM Championship. Those are your Championship 4 officially. And the Season 4 Championship as well may not be mathematically decided. Richard Regan Jr. has not clinched it. He's essentially got one hand on it unless things go terribly wrong at Auto Club next week. Same situation for Andrew Sharp. It's still mathematically possible with the day Zach Panzarella had this week. It's going to be very, very difficult. Richard Regan Jr. wins at Kentucky for his 82nd win in the PRL. Abner Acosta, yet again the chaser, but just not quite enough in it to make up that big margin. Ted Lowendick rounds out the top 3. Another great day for one of the most consistent drivers in this series. Zach Panzarella is the AM winner in 4th place overall. Jeff Evans rounds out the top 5, and James Morgan, the alternate strategy merchant of the day, P6 for his efforts. He'll probably be pretty happy with that. Patrick Cowgill and Andrew Sharp round out the top 3 in AM. Zachary Burnt had a strong day, and Kevin McGarvey rounds out the top 10.
Moving back to the P11s, Dalton Geyer with Brett Adams, Austin Hunter, and Nicholas Schwartz, 12th, 13th, and 14th in the AM class. Bradley Holly finishes exactly where he starts in P15. But these are cars now 1 or more laps down. Tom Amacy, Mark Kalin, Doyle Lawrence, Jacob Dunn, and Mike Richter go back to P20. And then quickly, Joe, your last 5 on the screen. Once it scrolls here, Mike Toomer Jr., Dustin Bumgarner, Alex Hillman, Colton Lane, and Nicholas Hunter round out a 25 truck field.
The used truck lot very, very small this week, and we can officially say for the first time in PRL truck history at Kentucky, it was a 0 caution race. And for the first time this season, for that matter, excellent stuff, clean stuff all around. Still waiting for our race winner, Richard Regan Jr. to join us. So in the meantime, we'll hop down to our AM winner to kick off the proceedings. Mr. Zach Panzarella, 4th overall, but competing up front with the pros all day. You are the AM winner of the day, and you're officially going to the Championship 4 next week.
Oh I'm so stoked right now, guys. Oh my god, I'm so stoked. Like, I guess you could say that's my 5th PRL win, but I've never led enough laps to indicate the fact I'm a champion, or really, I think the results I've gotten. I've always wanted that race, and I never thought it would come combining it with pros. And I was just telling Richard, I was like, that was a pipe dream when I passed them, and then having them behind me for that long. I'm not going to complain about the lack of cautions being part of the reason why I wasn't able to stay with them. I just don't have the ability to get on and off pit road the way they do, nor did I want to take the chances that I think they could. I felt that AM win right there, and I got to always remind myself I'm not gonna lose an AM win trying to be as good as some of the best guys in the world. So I'm so proud of that one, and God. And but one last fun story. I just did an official right before this race, and I led 40 of 40 laps, but I didn't win because I got wrecked in overtime. So that makes me not care about that at all. I'm so happy.
We do have to think about the championship 4 next week at Auto Club. It's you, Andrew Sharp, Patrick Cowgill, and Brett Adams. How are you feeling about fighting for a playoff championship next week with those guys?
Just grateful to be there. Just honestly grateful to be there. Just like, I guess like real life NASCAR, one thing that I think like isn't talked about enough is the accomplishment of getting there in the first place. Especially in PRL where it's 4 seasons put together, of essentially consistency and then delivering under pressure is what it takes to get there. I'm just so excited to be there. I've been on house money since I've been a champion season 2 in this 2024 season, and I'm just gonna give it my all. Obviously, I'm so happy. I've been calling them the Big Four, and I'm happy it's us 4. I'm happy we get to decide amongst ourselves. I'm very scared based on how good all 3 of them are. But again, I'm just so happy, so lucky to be racing for a championship, and so proud that Daily Drivers Inc. is doing it 2 calendar years in a row, with Dalton doing it last year in trucks. So just very proud.
Indeed. Congrats, Zach, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Daily Drivers Inc., my whole team. We're expanding soon. We're so excited for the new people we're bringing in next season. And shout out my friends, my family, my fiance, you guys over at RaceSpot. Excellent job all season. And shout out to this field in PRL today. We went caution-free, guys. We could do it. I told you last week we'd put on a show, and we came through this weekend. This is not as easy of a track as I'm sure it looks like sometimes. So super proud of this league, and let's go, boys. 5 wins. How about that? I can't believe that. And yeah, thank you guys. Wow.
Zach Panzarella is going to the championship 4 in the AM division, but we do have our pro winner now. He's got one hand on the season 4 championship. He's on his way to the championship 4, and Richard Wiegand Jr. is with Derek Watson.
Yeah, he's likely got his other hand on the season 4 title, and then it said one hand likely, hopefully, on that year-long title. Richard, I got to tell you, made me nervous tonight. You got passed by Panzarella, and I kind of thought maybe all those hours of farm sim yesterday had kind of knocked you off your game a little bit.
No, definitely not. I don't know. I was just trying to conserve a little too much there, I guess, and that first run, I definitely believe I was the fastest truck on the track, but that dirty air bubble, and Zach's a really good driver, so it's not easy passing him in general. And as long as you can control the air, it's been hard all season to pass. And you know, some of the races where I've stayed out on old tires and stayed up front and won, like Iowa and stuff, you know, I did the same thing, just trying to control the air of the guy behind you, take away his lane, and try to get on the throttle before him, and that's pretty much all you really need. And it was nice that we went caution free, because it actually took strategy in, and we had to do 2 pit stops instead of 1. So yeah, it was definitely a nice change of scenery, and hopefully this can happen again next week.
So talking about next week, we're going to Auto Club Speedway, of course, a track that sadly no longer exists. So maybe one of the last times we race this format or this layout of this track. What are your thoughts on the track? Do you like it? What do you find challenging about it?
I love Auto Club. I don't really find much challenging about Auto Club. The only really difficult thing is, and it's pretty much like a truck issue, is just, you know, if we do have a caution-free race, like that first round is very important, that you don't burn off your stuff. You want to have decent track position going into the pit stop, so that way you can kind of try to flip some strategy and get out in clean air. And you know, last year with the Xfinity car, it was a little different because we actually had horsepower and can kind of control your own race. So hopefully next week we have a little bit more control like we did tonight with the truck. And I put in way too much practice for Auto Club already, so I'm gonna keep practicing all week, and hopefully we can go out there and just dominate.
So my last question for you, and we'll let you go, is about Abner. Abner was trying to run you down at the end, trying to win his way into the Final Four, just didn't have the pace on you to do it. But could you feel Abner coming? Were you mirror driving, or was that even a thought?
I mean, Reese told me he, you know, well, I knew Abner pit late, and then Reese told me that he was starting to cut down the gap, and he was giving me his lap times compared to mine every lap, and I kind of knew that it was going to equal off. And the last 3-4 laps, he really fell off because he just got the tire too hot trying to close in too much gap. But yeah, it was a good effort from him. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to next week and seeing what we can do with the guys that are in the championship 4.
All right, buddy. Well, I know I'm staring at that amazingly delicious looking cupcake on your shoulder over there. But why don't you run through all the sponsors, give your shout outs, and thank who you want to thank.
Yeah, sure. I got to give a shout out to Mission 22, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Neonism, Jay-Z Photography, State Analyzer, Kaylee Sweet Creations, my girlfriend. Reese Bogue did awesome tonight, even though I yelled at him when we were driving. Got to give a shout out to Zach for getting P9. He qualified 3rd tonight. That's awesome for him. Everybody at Regan Bogue Motorsports, everybody that's been putting in the time with me these last couple weeks trying to get ready for Auto Club. You guys at RaceSpot and everyone at PRL.
All right, buddy. Well, congrats on tonight. We'll see you next week at Auto Club.
Thank you.
Joey, you got to think that's probably not the first driver to ever yell at a spotter mid-race and then say thank you afterwards.
Absolutely not. And I hope we see Reese Bogue back as a driver one of these days. Hopefully that happens again soon. But we'll wait and see if that happens. We do have 2nd place here as well. Abner Acosta has arrived. Abner, yet again, somehow it came out to be the long run at the end of a race. You having to chase down Richard. What more did you need to make up those 4 seconds, do you think?
I think I was pretty much unaware of the whole situation that was going on, which was my fault. I was saving tires in the second stint, and all of a sudden I see people pitting, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, we have one more pit stop. So I kind of got caught out. I was like, okay, I'm going to run long, and then I didn't like the spread of the laps, so I just decided to pit at a random time, just put 2 tires. But yeah, none of it was planned. I'm surprised I got back to 2nd. I thought I was going to be like all out of place, but yeah, it was pretty fun. I don't think I had enough for him anyway. At the end, times were equalizing. Even if I got close, my tires would have been burnt, and passing is really hard here. So yeah.
Well, next week at Auto Club, don't mean to be negative, but unfortunately you're not in the championship 4, not in the season championship fight. Does that give you more incentive to kind of spoil the party a little bit, maybe steal a win next week?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be accepting cash apps for any of the top 4 drivers. I'll send that on. I'm kidding. No, yeah, I know. Actually, no, I'm just gonna be out of the way. I mean, if I'm fast and I can be ahead, but I kind of take it like I've been in that position before, and I would like people to kind of not to let me by or anything like that, but just if there's any scenario where I can let them fight for it, then that's fine. But if I am way faster or somehow get in a position that I can be really far ahead, I'll do so. All
right, Abner, we'll see you next week, and we'll see what happens.
All right, see you guys. Have a good night.
Abner Acosta coming home 2nd tonight. 3rd place, Ted Lowendick is with us as well. And Ted, this was a very clean race. No cautions, but you were a very, very dirty boy. You accumulated 2 incident points. How did that happen?
I did? What?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers who accumulated incident points today, and you were one of them.
Did you scrub the wall pretty hard at some point, Ted?
I don't know. I did scrub it once, but I don't know.
That might have been it. That might have been it.
Heck, two X's is fine.
It just makes me laugh that I think in total this week we had 2, 6, 10. We had 16 incident points total across the field this week. I think there were more than that for singular drivers last week at Phoenix. So it was a very clean day, a very clean run. How fun was it to be able to run a whole race green?
That was great. When they moved it to an hour, we kind of thought that there might be some races where we got to do two pit stops, and that was fun. I wasn't sure I was going to make it tonight, and loaded in I think 10 minutes before qualifying. I'm glad I did some practice yesterday and the day before, and qualified in the top 10, and knew that as long as Abner didn't win, if he got all the extra bonus points, I just had to finish 11th or better. And so that was the goal. It was starting to get a little sweaty there at the end because he was driving away and Richard was kind of just hanging out there. So but no, I'm happy we get to try it for the championship again, and we'll see how California goes.
Indeed you do. Real quick, if you had to describe your championship chances in one word, what would it be?
Nerdy.
I'll take it. Ted Lowendick. He's going to be nerdy going in next week. We'll see you then.
See you guys.
Theodore Lowendick going for his first Truck Series championship at Auto Club next week. How fun would that be? We got one more driver who will take a quick chat to. Patrick Cowgill finished second in the AM category. Patrick, another podium for you this week, but more importantly, you are officially going to the Championship 4 in Auto Club next week. How do you feel about your chances?
I feel pretty good. Auto Club is actually towards the top of my list of tracks that I'm good at, so I'm actually looking forward to it.
Alrighty, congrats on the AM podium this week, and we will see you in 1 week's time. See if you can go for that championship.
I'm hoping so.
That was Mr. Patrick Cowgill in the number 31. Don't see our old buddy Andrew Sharp, who came home third, but he will be fighting for a championship all the same. Just a reminder, your Championship 4 at Auto Club next week are as follows. In Pro, Regan, Caitlin, Holly, Lowendick. In AM, Sharp, Cowgill, Panzarella, and Adams. 2 big 4s. It's impossible to predict who's going to win this championship, and it's at a race and a track where anything can happen. High speeds, high amounts of draft. We hope you'll join us next week because it is going to be a fantastic show. We hope you'll join us tomorrow night as well. Thursday nights in the PRL, it's GTP GT3 night. All sorts of PRL opportunities all week long. But until we see you next time, I've been Joey Tebbin. Derek Watson's been Derek Watson. Our producer has been Hugo Luis. And until we see you next time, indeed, so long.